I teach on the International Foundation Program, which is run by the Language and Learning Unit. This is a foundation program that prepares predominantly international students for undergraduate entry, mainly in they plan to do three broad subject areas: law, business management and economics here at Queen Mary, but there are other subjects as well that they're interested in. Each year we have around 120 students in the cohort, and they are generally very diverse in terms of their background, and they face a number of challenges. Quite a number of them will have had an English medium education already, so their level of English may be quite high, but that doesn't mean that coming to the UK is easy for them, because they face a number of other challenges that aren't necessarily linguistic. These are cultural challenges, the challenge of moving away from home. Homesickness is a major issue. Adapting to the expectations of British higher education can be very hard for a lot of students. Of course, we have a large number of students who face significant linguistic challenges as well. Their English may be inadequate for what they have to do, and so we spend a lot of time trying to improve the level of English for those students. But we also have lots of students who actually their English is generally fine. It's more to do with adapting to the expectations of higher education that is the challenge. Invariably, for most of our students, the marking scheme used at Queen Mary can be a surprise. They expect to score. They may have come from schools where most of the time they scored in the 80s and 90s. They did well at school, or perhaps those marks were easier to obtain, or there's a different approach to awarding marks, and they find it very disheartening, surprising, confusing when they come to Queen Mary and they start getting marks that are in the 40s or 50s and 60s, and the idea that getting something in the 60s is very good comes as a surprise to them, and that getting something in the 50s is decent is a surprise. They often are very unsure initially about how the marking scheme works here. Other significant differences are in terms of the relationship between students and staff. This can be very different in home countries. For example, it may well be that there's a very deferential relationship back home, where students are expected to stand up when members of staff enter the room, or where they're expected to use sir and ma'am or miss when they talk to members of staff. And in contrast, the norm in the UK, which is to use first names and to have a fairly casual relationship, and often quite a friendly relationship with staff members, can again be slightly confusing, take time to get used to for our students, and some of them find it a bit uncomfortable, and that will be something that you need to be aware of. A major challenge is reconciling lots of different expectations within a class. If you're teaching international students, they will generally, there will be quite a diverse range of experiences, and it may well be that their experience here at Queen Mary doesn't match with what they expect from formal education from their previous experience. So the emphasis that we have in the UK on autonomy and autonomous learning can be quite a challenge for a lot of international students, particularly if they're at the early stages of their higher education career, particularly if they're moving from school to university. That's a major challenge, although it doesn't necessarily differ that much from the challenge that home students face in managing the transition from school to university. But the expectations in terms of managing your time, meeting deadlines, handing in, producing high quality work under your own steam, that can be difficult for students, both international and home, to deal with.